Hey, Internet. It's Paul, very importantly, and it's Matt, the Dork Lords. Paul missed our Last Jedi spoiler review.
That's true.
And he had some takes of his own.
Yes, my own take.
Especially after watching what was said by producer Steve and myself.
Yes.
And so this is kind of, in some ways, Paul's response to the Last Jedi spoiler review. Paul, I leave it to you.
Good. Good.
Start us off.
Leave it to me. So, I don't know where to start.
All right. Good way to start.
In some ways, probably the biggest thing, because we had talked about it before, was your whole, Luke, no!
Okay, right. So the Luke thinking about killing Kylo.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, you know, I didn't feel, when we were talking, that you were clear that it wasn't like, you know, in the middle of the night, I think I want to go kill that kid. No. After watching it again, I watched it again last night.
Oh, so you went to second time.
Yeah. Luke has this weird habit. He didn't just do it to Rey, but he also, to Kylo or Ben, he also did it to Rey, which is, they're sleeping. Let me just go up and talk to them. Or, you know, because...
Did he talk to Rey while she was asleep?
Well, that's when he said, hey, we can start training.
Oh, okay.
She was asleep when that happened.
So he walks in on people while they're asleep and just stands over them.
Yeah. What? What do you want?
Oh, Jesus. Oh, my God. Okay, he invades personal space.
Yeah. But he did that, though, because he's like, God, I'm worried about this kid. Let me go and scan him, probably. I mean, you know, headcanon or whatever. You know, like if I'm there trying to guard my thoughts, he might be like, you're making this difficult. So, okay, you're sleeping. Now I can really examine your brain. Oh, I see what you mean.
Examine him while he's unprotected.
Right.
Okay.
So then he's like, oh my God, you are like Jeffrey Dahmer or something. And so there he's like, oh, shoot, maybe I should kill him. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. Now, I can understand how the way you phrased it in terms of, look, when he was, you know, last time we saw him was with... his dad, and people were like, you know, you should kill him because obviously he's too far gone. You got to kill him, you know. And you could say, well, Ben's not as far gone as Vader.
Correct.
You know, why would you kill him, especially after you've already realized now that people can be redeemed?
Correct.
All right. Well, if you look at somebody in terms of, let's see, I don't know how to make this decision. You know, okay. You know what? I'm having this experience and it turned out okay. I will never make that mistake again, ever.
If it's in a story, yes.
People sometimes take things case by case basis, especially if they're in the middle of something. Like, oh God, I can actually feel what this guy thinks.
I hear you. I will say this: what kind of tips it for me? It's not so much that he might have the thought. Wow, maybe the world would be better off without that guy. I get that. Like I could see that impulse coming. But there's a couple of things about it in particular. It's his sister's son.
Yeah.
She sent him to Luke for Luke's instruction and mentoring.
Yeah.
He's staying basically under Luke's roof and is asleep in a bed.
Yep.
Like that, just like those things to me mean like it's even worse to consider killing the kid in that moment. Like if it was a stranger kid that you just walked past and it's like, oh my God, that's Voldemort. Yeah. You know, okay, maybe you had that thought, but in this case, it's like all of those circumstances.
I feel like
what's he going to even tell Leia if he kills the kid? He's like, oh yeah, by the way, I killed your kid. He was evil.
Right.
Are we good? Are we okay?
That's not the more rational.
I'll see you at Christmas.
The more rational thing, and clearly, he had to fight to be rational in that moment.
Yeah.
So here he is experiencing the horror of this kid, and he's like, oh my God, I can see how horrible he is. It makes me want to kill him. Oh, okay, I shouldn't do it. So he, you know, it's like one thing they've shown with Luke is how often he can be pushed. And the interesting thing about this movie, actually, is to suggest, you know, maybe the way they've been thinking about the Force is all wrong. This whole light and bad.
Right, that only Jedi can really manipulate it.
Well, also, too, that you should think of it as a binary thing altogether anyway. Just keep your ass over on the good side. Just be good.
Right.
You know, it's like, you could argue.
Always look on
you could argue that, you know,
of life.
In order to be a Jedi, you have to just try to keep from having any anger at all. And, or being afraid. Or what else? Anger, fear, and hate. Don't hate anybody either. You know.
And I think that's a good lesson for us all, Paul.
Yeah, well.
But right,
Good
yes.
luck. Good luck doing that.
I know Paul doesn't hate anyone for anything.
And one of the things they're suggesting, I think, is bringing in the interesting things about the movie as well, is how Luke is questioning the whole history of the Jedi.
Right.
How effective they've been.
He even goes back and talks about the prequels.
Right,
He's
exactly.
Like, remember how we let Sidious just like hang out with us?
Right.
We were horrible.
Yes. Right. You know, it's like, what are they doing wrong? So, you know, he's rethinking that whole thing, and I think it feeds into...
I agree that he's rethinking the thing. I think, though, part of the reason he's rethinking it is as a result of what happened to Kylo.
Oh, sure, but that's the great part about what Yoda tells him at the end is integrate your mistakes into your experience. Don't try to, oh, I made this mistake, but obviously I need to cut myself off from the Force and get away and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no. You know, what if he'd owned that? You know, okay, you know what? Okay, you can battle me, or I'm gonna now start hitting myself or something. You know, it's like I'm gonna make up for this. If he at the time tried to say, you know, like had a more open. Although I think one of the things we start
when you
asking
say at
ourselves,
the time, you're talking in the moment he was attacking Kylo, or defending himself from
right,
Kylo.
Right, because I mean, obviously I think he was primed to see himself as a bad teacher even before that. You know?
Oh, okay.
It's like, you know, because, I mean, he didn't even come after that, like, because I taught one person badly, I can't teach anybody else again. You know, it's like, no, dumbass. So I'm arguing that, you know, he's clearly not thinking about being a Jedi in the right way anyway, which is why Yoda had to straighten him out. So that's part of how he was thinking of it the wrong way.
Gotcha.
And maybe they need to start thinking of it in a different way, which is why, you know, it might be even more important. I mean, this whole stupid thing about, oh, you have to be too young, and you're really young if you're gonna. So if you're old, who cares? You know.
Oh, right. In other words, you have to. They separate the kids from their parents at an early age to do the Jedi training.
Right.
And that's maybe not the best way to do that.
Right.
They
it's
get,
like, well,
separation anxiety.
So, I mean, there was so much in that, like, oh, Luke is too old to begin the training or whatever. He was older than Anakin, and Anakin was, you know.
Yeah, but Anakin, that didn't work out so well.
Well, but he was.
Okay.
Anakin, how old was that kid? I mean, they getting preschoolers? Is that what. You know, he was like 7 or 8 or something.
Yeah,
crap.
he was like 8, 9 years
old.
old.
Yeah, that should be young. You know, that's too old. That's ridiculous.
Right.
Rey looks like she's going to turn out to be okay, and clearly an adult.
Yeah.
I mean, if they want to say that we should only take girls, then maybe that's what the problem is.
Okay. Okay.
Anyway,
yeah.
so that's, you know, but obviously, you know, you feel the way you feel. I can't change your mind about that.
No, you can. I mean, you make a good case, and I do feel like Luke lost his way in terms of being a Jedi, being a teacher, what that means to say, oh, I'll just shut myself off. You do need a teacher, Rey, but not me. All those were misguided. I just felt like that moment of lighting up the lightsaber. And, you know, he says I wasn't going to do it. Well, he still had the lightsaber lit standing behind the guy. Yeah. Like, do we really know he wasn't going to? Maybe in the next moment he's like, nah, second thought. I still got it lit. Ah, what the hell? Like, that just didn't ring true to me. And then it seemed more like a conduit to humanize Kylo.
Yeah,
at the expense
that's what you said there. And
of
I don't think the most important part of it had to do with Kylo at all.
You don't think it is? Okay.
No, I don't. I think, you know, clearly it was there in terms of, but I think Kylo, or Ben, it's hard. Okay, so here's how I'm contrasting.
I have a question for you after this too.
Contrasting Ben with Darth Vader.
Okay.
So you could say, look at that. After everything that Darth Vader did, you know, the Emperor tells him to kill his son, and he's ready to do it. And then the Emperor says, "Oh, we're gonna kill your sister," and then it causes his son to fight him, and his son to nearly kill him, and his son says, "Screw it, I'm not gonna do it." So then he says, okay, and so as the
It's
Emperor tries to
basically
kill him,
what redeemed him was watching the Emperor about to kill his son.
yeah. Oh, only I can kill my son. What are
Right.
you trying to do? Kill my son?
I can
What
chop
the
his
heck?
hand. You can chop his hand off. That's fine.
Yeah.
Kill him. Hey, hey. All right.
So then he knocks off the Emperor, and then I guess he dies. So that means he must be
I
redeemed.
agree that there is a you can make a strong case to say, was he really redeemed?
Right.
Like he did so many bad things, and then he does one thing,
Right.
and dies, and it's like, oh, because he died doing the one thing, he's
Right.
fine.
Right.
We're like,
yeah,
but
but I
okay.
think it would have been better if he had to live after that.
Right, live with the
Live with
pain.
that, and then people would be like, "Oh, we should trust this guy." You know, and it's like, wow, like, too bad I didn't have the ghost of Christmas come and save me.
So this actually leads into a question I had perfectly. It leads in.
Let me
Okay, finish up.
my-
Okay, sorry.
finish my thought. So, Ben now, or Kylo, Ben 2, he, okay, so he decided at the end of this movie to take the Emperor's position. So he
Right,
kind
by
of
Snoke is the Emperor. Like
right, yeah, kill Snoke, who is I don't know who called Supreme Leader. What was his name?
Yeah, Supreme Leader Snoke.
To take his position and be the ruler or whatever. To
Which is a
create
big
new
difference.
World.
Big
It's a big difference, yeah, between the two. And so it's a question of whether or not he still can be redeemed.
That's the question I had for you.
Yeah.
Do you think Kylo can be redeemed? I don't think he can now.
Well, see, I agree, because it's sort of like, boy, your brain is kind of twisted that you think, kill everything old. That's what we need to do.
His redemption
Ooh.
moment, if it was going to come, was right there with Rey in the throne room.
Right.
Snoke's dead. She's like, look, this is a new start. And
Right.
he's like, yeah, a new start. Why don't we get rid of all the other trappings and we can rule the world together?
Yeah.
And you could see, and Rey's like, oh, boy. Okay, you're still evil.
Yeah.
And like,
Yeah.
I
Right.
think that's, and then now he's taken on the mantle of some. Now, sure, he might have a moment of reflection or something. We might see a moment in episode 9 where he's like, well, maybe I did pick the wrong path. Oh, well, I do feel like he's on that path.
It's
now.
like, I feel like, if we were going to put it into a modern day sort of paradigm, someone who committed the acts that he did, you'd want them to be held up somewhere and get some serious treatment. It's not likely to happen.
They're not going to have a
But-
psychiatrist show up and sit with him.
Tell me.
Well, it
Ben.
could have Force Ghost. He said, Luke does say,
I know.
I'll haunt
Right.
you for the rest of
Right.
your days.
And I feel like I want that to happen, I think, more than most people. I want them to be there, sort of like, but yes, the parallel would not be that Obi-Wan Kenobi didn't, drop in on Darth Vader to be like, what the hell are you doing?
Right.
I mean, it would have been
Yeah.
nice.
Like,
I
ooh,
think, yeah.
remember me?
Ooh, look at the tough guy. Anyway, so, but no, I hope that does happen, actually. I think that could be quite interesting.
That being what?
Oh, Luke is being a Force ghost with Ben.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought you might be saying you hoped somehow he might be redeemed. I don't.
No.
I think he's the villain now. I think
I
he's
definitely
the villain
think
to
he's
be
the
overcome.
villain, but I wouldn't rule out the same Darth Vader redemption.
Okay, who would he be? Would he just be
Yeah, now
overthrowing
Leia's gone,
the
though,
First
so, yeah,
Order
nobody
in
needs
general, or
Just to do something nice, I guess. He does
Save
actually. I
Rey.
do believe his connection with Rey. Actually, even after this, I think he still wants to connect with Rey. So
and they will be connected. I mean,
Yeah,
that,
right.
that we saw that the
Right.
Snoke enforced connection lingered after Snoke's death.
Right.
Like they can now see each other.
right. Anyway, so that's one thing. And now the other thing that occurred to me watching you guys talk is that
The porg.
you put so much
pork
energy.
chicken.
I didn't get to any pork chicken.
Oh, okay.
So much energy into the thought that, Ben was lying. Her parents aren't nobody.
By Kylo, you mean?
Kylo,
Yeah.
yes. Her parents aren't
Right.
nobody.
If you take it on face value, yeah. And I believe in one of my early prediction videos. After I said she's obviously a Skywalker, I did have maybe she's actually just she's not related to anybody famous, and maybe that's a good thing because it makes the universe larger and keeps it from being a small story. But
Now,
but
I
do
think
feel
it's probably, I shouldn't say probably, I think it's possibly 50-50 that something about the situation was wrong. I don't buy exactly your thought that he's reading her thoughts, because it feels more like them seeing a kind of future, or a past in this case. It still perhaps is suspect, because it's hard to know exactly how much Snoke had to do with it. So he may have said, okay, well, if I make her believe or support her idea that she's nobody, and Kylo sees it too, then
that it was like a plant,
right,
an idea plant from Snoke.
That's possible, but I think for me, it's certainly possible. So I'm going to say 50-50. I prefer it not to be. Because
you prefer it being. You prefer what?
I prefer her. I prefer the story that they told.
So in other words, you prefer that Rey's parents are nobody consequential.
Right.
Got it.
I prefer that because I think they've done a bad job of showing where these people who have the Force come from, and it's too I didn't mind the midichlorian thing, except that
I did, but okay.
Yeah, I didn't mind it, except now, if they keep building up on it, it'll be even worse.
I don't think they're going back to midichlorians.
In order to see it objectively, is I don't have a problem with it seeing objectively, except, if someone lifts up something into the air and there were no strings, I guess that's objective, right? I mean, give them some sort of test, that's fine. So if it was medical or something in their body, but if it was naturally there, as opposed to the result of working with the Force and really doing it, that's what I would prefer. So, if you're like, hey, it turns out that if you work on the Force, you got this something in your body that says that, hey, you've been working on the Force, I wouldn't have a problem with that. It just, if you talk about something in the body, it makes it seem like, oh, is this guy eating a lot of beets or something?
Yeah, it's like a dipstick test. Oh, look, your Force level is low. Or
right, well, it's like, it suggests that you don't have control over it. You know? And the whole idea of someone who studies and somebody who lives a certain kind of life and all that is the fact that it takes some effort to be that way. Maybe some people have more natural talent for something, or whatever.
I think Rey probably has natural talent for things. It seems like.
Right, but even then, I think perhaps the argument should be that something about nature and nurture contributed to her being more, rife or available to the Force.
I will say that I don't think that this resolves her quest to know who her parents were. I feel like episode 9...
I agree with that.
I think she'll still want to know, I think
it's possible that we won't hear any more about it.
It's possible she won't know, but I think she'll still want to.
I agree.
And
if they can make it interesting, then okay.
Here's what I wonder, let's say, Skywalker, Kenobi stuff aside, just to blanketly say, your parents were nobody. I mean, they could be somebody to her, right? In terms of hey, you know what? Oh, my parents weren't just drunks who died in the desert in anonymous graves. My mom led part of the resistance movement, or my dad did something notable, whatever. She learned something about her parents that makes them more well-rounded in her life. Oh, okay, I feel proud about my family instead of they were nobodies.
Right. I mean, we
what does that mean?
If what he said is true, and they were so self-concerned, I guess, in terms of they said that they sold her for booze money or whatever. If they were so self-concerned that they were just terrible parents, we either assume that they were always like that, or there was something that led them to be that way.
Right.
So there's some potential there for something interesting, I guess. One thing that I was thinking about, it's not clear at all what the meaning of her in going, seeing herself in the mirror in that.
Oh, sure.
In that pit or whatever.
Because you do see when she says, "Who are my parents? I want to know my parents," and you see the two images,
right?
The shadows come together, and then it's her. Which I think the implication is, see, your parents made you, and you're the result of your parents.
So here's a crazy idea.
Okay.
Crazy. I don't even know if
Okay.
I believe it, but it's
all right.
occurred to me.
Sure.
She's a clone.
She's a clone.
Yes.
Hence all the line of people.
Yeah, and we'll finally get to it, and there I am again.
Yeah. Have they brought cloning? I mean, obviously they have because the clone army.
Right.
So cloning is a thing. I mean, I know it's in the thing in the books, but
Right.
like it's a thing in the movies as well.
Yeah, but I feel like, and when I thought about clones, when I heard about it first before they had the movie, I thought clones. Okay, we know what clones are. When you take a copy of somebody, you know, and that generally means something you're actually curious that person has a soul, even though I don't believe in souls, and I hate that sort of a thing. But that question's about humanity. That whole clone army, I mean, you know, that's just like, oh, I can get some extra fighters, you know, and I guess we can make them quickly, you know, or whatever. I mean, we don't even think that Finn is a clone, right? I mean, it's like only
He's
part
not.
of the time.
They said it specifically.
Right.
He's
So it's
not.
only part of the time that they were using clones to make, you know,
They moved out of
or
it.
whatever, right?
Yes.
So you know, I feel like it was something that wasn't really used very well.
I hope she's not a clone.
At all.
I'll say that. I get that it's a possibility,
that could mean
but
anything if she was a clone, right?
yeah,
You know.
she's made in a lab or something.
Yeah, or there might be more of her out there.
Okay. Maybe. I'm gonna put a low possibility
You
to
know,
that. But
because
there's a chance.
the other thing that's not that is just that. I mean, you're thinking about her parents made her. I mean, it might have been telling her that she doesn't need to be concerned about that. Her
Right.
parents made it just like, don't worry about it. Just focus on yourself.
It was a theme of this movie. You know, the thing where Luke says, "Oh, you know," he kind of says sarcastically, "the mighty Skywalker bloodline."
Yeah.
You know, and then we see this, you know, sweepy boy. Kid without no obvious parentage who's got part with the Force and stuff. I think it's the idea, you know, Luke says the Force isn't just reserved for Jedi.
Right.
I think that's all pointing toward the notion of, yeah, Rey could just be a person and is not from a particular bloodline and is still powerful with the Force.
Yeah.
Just as it turns out, she drew the lucky straw.
Right, yeah. Because I mean, you know, I understand a bit of confusion. I think even I thought that too, in terms of believing, oh, maybe she's Luke's daughter or whatever. You know, why does she feel this connection to Luke's lightsaber?
Now
I had thought, but here's it. You know,
I got a point on that.
Oh, go ahead.
My point on that being, maybe the lightsaber was foreshadowing its demise, in that it breaks apart because she and Kylo are trying to grab it from either side, and it splits in half.
Mm-hmm.
So its destiny was completely, you know, whatever it was
Tied up with her
and Kylo. So the images of her and Kylo in the Force vision could be related to, oh yeah, by the way, you guys are gonna break me in half.
Yeah, I mean, my thought was just that it's just obviously it had. Well, we don't understand the Force, and I think it's a folly to try to understand the Force because they come up with new rules all the time. So you know, it's imbued with the Force since, you know, Luke had to make it, and he had, you know, obviously had a lot of emotional experiences with it and everything. So that's how she can connect to, you know, the Force is through objects like that. So okay, here's this important event from your past, and here's some other events that are connected to this that are more directly connected to this lightsaber, and you know, and here's stuff that may be involved in your future, and okay, you know, that could be good enough without having to make her. I mean, a reason why, a personal thing that I don't know will ever get explored is the fact that if you listen to Luke, and how Luke talks, and how his family talked before they were killed, and how Obi-Wan Kenobi, Alec Guinness, and Ewan McGregor, and who's the other guy, his mentor,
Qui-Gon Jinn.
Qui-Gon Jinn. How they all talk. They're all posh.
They were posh.
You know, and most of her life she spent on this planet, and you didn't hear other people talking with this English accent.
She's very posh.
What the hell is that?
Are you?
So I don't know if they can explore that. And I'm not saying
okay.
I dislike it because of that, but to me, it's one of the things that people have said. Look at this. Look at how Luke talks and how his family talks, and look at Leia, who went back and forth. Actually, it was kind of annoying.
It did. She did go back and forth, big time.
Yeah.
Nerf
but
herder.
She started off in the first one is
Posh,
having
posh,
an
and then
English,
whoop.
it have an English accent. By the time the second one came around, she's like, "Fuck that."
I noticed your stench from anywhere.
Yeah.
Then,
you know,
You
and of course
scruffy
that's how James Earl Jones was doing the character when he was doing the voice. Anakin, it was just another American. It's like, Jesus Christ. Now that I have this,
Well,
I will
right, it's
speak
a
with an
respirator.
English accent. Where's the setting on that?
okay, you're talking about the Force visions. This brings up a point that I started thinking about post my spoiler review from yesterday. So it's still, we talked about it when we broke down Rey's Force vision a while back. And it's still the one scene that is still a mystery is the Kylo in the rain vision. Right? So we see Kylo Ren in his gear. He's got theoretically the Knights of Ren with him. And they're in the rain.
Thank you for reminding me. Maybe that was that note I didn't understand was, it's like, couldn't it be representational? Does it have to be like, here's how it actually happened?
That is not representational. That's a thing. That's a moment in time captured, I think.
I mean, okay, so if I wanted to, I think the thing that I think is the Occam's razor way of looking at it is, we weren't exactly sure how we wanted to do it, and so, we made some choices that now we'd say is different. And I know it's a pleasure of fans to shout, "Oh no, every detail has to be right."
No, but so I'm just going to point something out though. So you're right. Like, what is it? What does it mean? So the two main theories about that scene that going into this movie, I think, have both been disproven. So it's probably something else, is my point. The first theory was...
I think it might have been a mistake, and they're just going to leave it go. This whole thing about, when did it happen? Well, he didn't have his mask on when he had to fight with Luke, and then, did he...
All right,
Did he, fall down
That's
and
important.
put his face into a
I find
hubcap,
that important.
and then it wrapped around his face and made a mask?
Okay, so you're right to call out the fact that obviously it is not apparently connected to the fall of the Jedi Academy. Because that's the night that Luke thought about killing Kylo. Kylo defended himself, tore down the place.
For all you know, one of the things he was doing as he was talking to Snoke on the DL is like, wouldn't it be interesting if I made my own mask?
Sure, but it doesn't seem like that fits with that thing. Like, to see him in full attire with a whole bunch of folks gathered in full attire, it doesn't seem like it fits in the same mold as the moment.
Because you don't know where this thing occurred. Maybe he's like, Ben, let's go off on our own.
Well, that's...
And then, so now by the time it's like, they're off there. Maybe I'll put some clothes on. I was asleep. Let me put some clothes. And look at it. Here's this little mask I was making. It's like you don't know where they were with that. Why does it matter?
He's also got his lightsaber. Okay, so right. But I think it's important to know at that moment in time when this happens. I do think it is. So, but the other theory was, and I think is now disproven, that because when you see in the background, it looks like, and I agree that it does look like the Jedi Temple, the tree. It's got the 3 prongs.
Oh yeah.
And it looks like Ahch-To, perhaps. But first of all, the tree is now burned down.
About that.
Okay. The tree's burned down, so it doesn't sound like that could be a future thing.
What's Ahch-To?
Ahch-To is the planet that Luke died on.
Okay.
So he hid on. So in other words, he was hidden. Hence, Kylo wouldn't have known where he was.
Okay. Yeah.
So I think most people, and I think I would probably fall into this group, thought, you know what? In Last Jedi, Kylo is going to find out either he put a tracker on the Millennium Falcon, or maybe through these Force visions with Rey that we eventually find out he has. He discovers Ahch-To is that Luke's there, and then he and the Knights of Ren go to Ahch-To to fight Luke. Like, I thought that was going to happen. I did think that.
Okay.
And so I thought that's what this vision was going to foretell. Well, it doesn't, obviously. And now that the trees burned down, it doesn't seem like there's going to be anything from the future there. So my point is, I don't think it's an Octu thing either. I think it's something else. And maybe it's the first time the Knights of Ren went and just decimated a group of people or something, like a peaceful village.
Oh, okay, sure.
I feel like it's important in something. I mean, this Force Vision wouldn't just give you a time when, like, oh, this is the time Kylo ate a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. This is the time he got a parking ticket. Like, that's an important moment in time that is trying to foretell, like, this is important.
Okay, so
maybe it's the first time.
I'm sorry,
my point.
Struggling to care.
Because we also don't know, the Knights of Ren are not mentioned at all in Last
No,
Jedi.
they're not mentioned at all. That's true. Yeah, so this is, I mean, I think the Occam's Razor, where it's like, hey, you want to do something with these Knights of Ren? And Ryan Johnson was like, nah.
Because they do mention that there were some students from the academy that went with Kylo.
Yeah, maybe he tracked them down and they had a chance to see a tailor, and they made him a little outfit. And they're like, hey, let's make a tree. Oh,
okay.
So
so I don't. My point being is I don't think that scene is from the destruction of the Jedi Academy, and I don't think that scene's on Octu.
Okay.
So it's option C, whatever that is. And so I'm going to go with the first time we saw the Knights of Ren and Kylo wipe out a resistance base or something like that.
Okay.
That's my thought. Anyway, there you go. If you have some comments
That's
on
an
that.
extra one. He didn't have it, so yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you can, encourage him in the comments downstairs the way that I can't, because I don't care.
I care about the Knights. I'm so interested in Knights of Ren, and I would have loved to have seen Luke versus the Knights of Ren on Octu. Can we have that in a, I don't know, fanfic? All right, anyway.
I mean, thankfully, although he really did look young in that, so obviously it was some time ago. I mean,
he being
Kylo Ren looked young in that sort of flashback. I think they did a successful job of making him look younger than he was presently.
Sure, okay.
But, I don't see why they couldn't redo that stuff just so you'd know what happened.
What do you mean?
Just actually take you back there to see what happened in that time.
Yeah.
Whether or not it would be interesting at all or important for the story they want to tell, I don't know.
I am interested in the Knights of Ren in terms of, that's one of the things Snoke identifies Kylo as, leader of the Knights of Ren. He calls him that in The Force Awakens. And he is Kylo Ren. So he connects himself with this gang, this culture, and we don't see that culture. So is that culture separated from the First Order?
No.
Are they? Okay, I know. All right,
No. I mean, the ways I can think of finding that interesting is, maybe now we see somebody else who might challenge him. One of the Knights of Ren, like, hey, I'm not scared by you. I'm not some, stupid helmet guy.
Or I'll throw this out, because we're speaking extemporaneously. You threw out a clone idea. I'll throw this out. Maybe the Knights of Ren become the new villain that has to be overthrown. Maybe they rise to power in some way, and then Kylo has to... His redeemable moment is destroying the Knights of Ren. I don't... They're not. They haven't been enough. They're not in it enough to suddenly show up and be powerful.
Here's the other thing that this whole thing about being upset about Snoke not having enough time to know who he is before he was killed.
Okay, sure, yes.
It's like, how much time do we get with the Emperor?
I hear you.
About as much time.
Not as much time, but he did go through all three movies. I mean, we knew, like...
We knew that he existed, but we didn't see him except for,
he's the big baddie.
Yeah. That's all we knew.
Well, I guess it's also, we
didn't know about why he became the Emperor.
It's the big difference that we just noted was that's the redeem moment. That's the redemption moment for Darth Vader is killing the Emperor to save his son.
Right.
If you were on the idea that there was a redemption arc for Kylo, it would theoretically make sense that he would kill Snoke in an act of redemption. And obviously, they're not going that way. So, all right, that's fine. And, but it's very intriguing. And, as fan service, it'd be nice to know his background.
Yeah, but it's not necessarily the story and not like, and it's...
Oh, and by the way, I do think, after further thinking about it, especially that scene after Snoke dies when Hux is in the throne room and
Yes.
we see a completely bisected Snoke,
Yes.
he is not coming back. I think that was the director telling you that dude's dead. There's no mysterious. Oh, because like obviously Darth Maul was cut in half, but he
Yes.
survived. Because he fell away and we didn't see him, and then he survived. In this case, we see minutes or hours later, he's still this bisected thing, lifeless thing. If he was a Force ghost, he would have already Force ghosted away.
Maybe that was a thing that the director was trying to accomplish. I think he just thought it would be funny.
Yeah, but I'm just saying. I think as on further reflection, Snoke's dead and is not coming
I
back.
don't have a problem with that. I mean, I wouldn't have a problem if he came back, but I think it's most likely that he's not around.
By the way, notable death that I didn't mention in the spoiler review, and actually was like, it flies by, and even at the time in the theater, I was like, "Whoa!" And so I'm going to do it now. My homage.
It's a trap.
Admiral Akbar.
Oh, what are you?
Admiral Akbar died,
Yeah.
and they didn't show it. They just said it. It was like,
He's
what?
dead.
Admiral Akbar. Anyway, so that was like,
See there, that's an
rip
extra,
Admiral
It's
Akbar.
another. You could say he had a little bit of force, so he can come back. Tell people it's a trap.
It's a trap.
Thank you, Akbar. Thank you for that.
I guess he didn't realize his own trap. But he's like, couldn't you have told yourself? Anyway, but that was very sad. That was. I was like, oh, Admiral Akbar. Anyway, there, a major character that died.
All right, now I want to defend Finn.
Okay, Finn.
So,
By the way, real quick on Finn, doesn't it feel like they kind of wrapped up his storyline in this movie? Like, I escaped from the First Order.
Right.
I wasn't sure if I really wanted to join the rebellion or not, and not really into it. At the end, and he's got his old boss, Captain Phasma.
Right.
He confronts his old boss.
Right.
The last lines where she's like, "Scum," he's like, "Rebel scum." And then she dies.
Right.
He's asserting, "I am with the rebellion now,"
Right.
or whatever, the resistance.
yep.
It kind of feels like that's his storyline, like his arc. I wonder what the next arc is going to be.
So it's possible that he may come out of this the way that Han Solo came out of The Empire Strikes Back, where it's like, and what's his story now? I think it's still possible that even though they started this whole thing with him and Rose,
They did start a thing.
I think it's still possible that I think it's possible. I mean, I don't know where they're gonna go. I mean, it might be like Luke and Leia at the end of that, where it's like, oh, I'm not
we're brother and
attracted
sister.
to you. We're just brother and sister. Now, just friends, I guess, is what it could be.
Because you're saying that there's still maybe a chance for a Rey involvement.
Yeah, I mean, the second time I got it, especially, because some people were saying that, oh, they're just friends. They're just friends. It's like, clearly,
They
in the
ask
first
about each other.
movie, right, they asked about each other. For some reason, they decided to not have us hear whatever poetry Chewbacca said to her about, oh, it's perfect. That's exactly what I want you to say to him. Like, what? What is it? I don't speak stupid Chewbacca. What was the perfect thing? Clearly it drove him in the first one.
I did note.
Finn was like, okay, I'll go into danger because of Rey.
Yes.
And a couple of times he asked about Finn, and then after Finn, they hugged and everything, and that was Rey. Clearly, it's like, I guess you're the only person I really know. That's not a computer.
I noted at the end of this movie when we see that Rose is still alive.
Right.
There's a shot where Finn is like looking after her, and we see Rey notices.
Yes.
And I took note of that scene.
Yes, and some people I've heard speaking to sort of said like, oh, good, he found somebody. Now I don't have to give him the talk, right? Don't tell him I'm not actually interested in him. That didn't look like that to me. It looked more like,
there's another person.
Yeah, that's the way it looked to me.
I agree.
I could be wrong. And really, in this movie, actually, she seemed a lot more hot for Kylo Ren than she ever did.
Well, and Kylo Ren has his shirt off.
Yeah, right. She's like, oh, could you put your shirt on?
Let's touch hands.
I never had to talk with my mom because mom sold me for booze. I don't understand my feelings. So, it's possible it might be some sort of quadrangle, I guess. Because Rose and Finn and Kylo and Rey. I mean, they clearly have a connection. So...
They clearly have a connection. Finn and Rey clearly have a connection.
No, I was gonna say
Oh, and you're saying Kylo and Rey.
Kylo and Rey. Yeah. I mean, because they're
I do feel like though, if we go with the
whatever.
idea that Kylo is not being redeemed, if he is the ultimate villain of this thing, then I don't think they're going to be like love interest.
Well, possibly not. Who knows? They might decide to go that way, or to really be tragic.
Well, because they
Where
will
she
be seeing
really-
each other. I think
Right.
almost certainly
Yeah.
in their visions or wherever they are, they can be like,
Right.
you.
So yeah, so she still might have some feeling for him and wanting him to accomplish because maybe she's attracted to him. I don't know.
Although there is that
I
scene,
feel like they're
the last thing that we see the last vision they have of each other after Snoke dies, and Kylo has broken into the base
Yes.
and no one's there,
Yeah.
and then he sees her getting on the Millennium Falcon.
yes,
The last thing we see is she's standing there looking at him. Door closes,
Right.
Which I think is also symbolic. Like, I'm closing the door on this relationship, basically.
maybe.
That's what I got out
I
of
feel
that.
like they could, I mean,
And he just watches. He's not like,
she did have
come
to close
back
the door.
here, you.
She did have to
She
close
had
the
to close the door. I'm just saying, I think there was a reason they showed the door
It may
closing.
be that why. Who knows?
Because she's looking right at him
Right,
and like,
right.
yeah, I feel sorry for this, but you know what? This is over. You've chosen. You chose to be evil. I've chosen a different path.
Right.
Goodbye. Bunk. Anyway, that's what So I don't think they're going to ship. If I had to ship a relationship, I guess I'd go with Ray and Finn, and maybe
I mean, I
maybe
think
Rose
it's possible
is like
that what I feel like though is one thing they've done with people who are Jedi's is they don't have relationships, and that's one of the things that I think is canon, right? It's like where they're like you
Right.
shouldn't be having relationships at all.
Totally agree.
Now they might be like, that's one of the dumb things.
Who's going to tell her? I guess
They
her
might-
Force goes.
They might be say, yeah, right. They might say like, hey, we're trying to change this whole Jedi thing because it's obviously not working. Maybe that was the problem. These Jedi should have been getting laid. I mean, because that's sort of very simplistic idea about piety and how to be good and all that is that for some reason you can't have romantic and sexual relationships or whatever. So, maybe that's where they're going with her, where she's really cutting herself off and she's going to be this Jedi and she's not going to have relationships like that. So,
she's like an ascetic monk,
yeah, maybe. I
like
don't know.
like
'Cause I feel
Yoda,
like-
Obi-Wan, Luke.
I feel like, yeah, because I actually think that, what I actually think is that they were setting it up so that they were sort of trying it out, like Finn and Rey. And I think probably the fans probably didn't take to it as much as they might have liked. I think they do it a lot with the series, like, oh, let's try this, let's try that. And that's what I think is where it's like,
You do have so many years between movies that you can
right, make decisions, make
switch
choices.
it out, alter.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, so that's what I think.
Okay.
I think that I don't think they'll end up together. I think I would like it, but in some ways, I feel like in the first movie she was more concerned with doing her, achieving her goals than with Finn. And Finn was sort of like, "Hey, you got a boyfriend?" He was clearly interested, and he's
Yeah.
clearly following her. So
And maybe it's the idea of like, they're trying to break the mold of the typical movie heroine where it's like she defines herself by finding a man. So maybe it's like she's a warrior monk and she
Right.
starts a school and she
That's
teaches
possible.
Sweepy Boy and that's like her thing.
right. It's just for me. I think it would be a challenge and one worthy of one where you could say, let's actually have a successful romance. It's like I think it should be criticized that they couldn't come up with an interesting storyline for Han after the Empire when he was rescued by Leia. He really didn't have an interesting storyline at all. And then they had to throw in the fact that they broke up, and so, after they had a son. So they couldn't have a successful relationship. That's a challenge, I admit, because typically with a romance, it's like, are they going to get together? And then once they're together, then
you have and they live happily ever
end.
after.
Right, exactly. But, I think most people, when they have relationships, they don't want it to just over. Okay, now we can die. We have to live together. That's actually a challenge. There are actually interesting stories to be had. You're not bored with your relationships. Most people aren't. So better to actually have a successful romance than not. But I think they're gonna. If I had to put money on it, I'd say they're probably, she's just off by herself being a teacher.
Is Rose
Ray.
I'm talking about Rose though.
Yeah, maybe.
What is Rose's involvement in all that?
Maybe. I mean, I feel like
she's into Finn.
She's
Maybe
into
Finn's
Finn.
not into her as much.
Maybe. I mean, it feels like they're almost setting it up that, because one thing that happened for him that I think is interesting, and perhaps it is the end of his or his arc, but I think in the first movie, obviously, it was like, I'm so bothered by the Order that I have to get out of here. And he's it's hard to create a character that appears just to be a coward. And it was good that they had him fight a number of times, but he still mostly was like, we're not going to bother with them. And so in this movie where he's going to go into the canon or whatever, he's like, I'm willing to die to fight them. I don't want them to win. So, that's what he was concerned about. Like, they're going to win and I don't want to be destroyed or whatever because, they always win. But now he's willing to fight them. So that's good.
Although they made the point in this that, like, doing the die for your cause hero thing wasn't necessarily the best choice to make. Like, Poe makes that choice, Finn makes that choice.
I'm not certain that his plan would have been successful.
His plan being...
Finn's plan of putting himself into that thing.
I agree. He could have just been incinerated,
right.
And who cares?
Right. So, for me...
but I think that was the point of the movie was saying that inclination is not necessarily a positive one.
Right. No, that's true. Yeah, right. Yeah.
You can't just, Top Gun doesn't solve everything.
Right.
Goose dies. Goose dies in Top Gun.
Yeah. Right, yes.
Don't be Goose.
Yeah,
anyway.
So, but it seemed, hopefully it'd be the end of his...
Spoiler alert.
Always trying to cut and run. Because, I mean, you could say that when he was trying to run away, it was like, I'm going to find... I'm going to go someplace safe so that Rey comes to me instead of going to the rebels where she thinks she's going, so we can be away from the Order. That was such a dumb plan.
That was a weird plan, I agree. I'll take the censor.
But, it's like it's still him being desperate to get away and not be destroyed by the Order because he just couldn't see. But now
he was also desperate to save Rey, too.
Right. And I think, too, for me, the primary purpose of him going to the casino is so that we all could see people who are being abused and oppressed by the Order, who aren't getting shot at them by the time. This is just slavery. This is just being under the boot or whatever. That's the point of that to me. It's that and so if you didn't have that, you wouldn't have had it in the movie.
Okay. I wasn't a big fan of those scenes, but I hear what you're saying.
Right. Those are, I think, the functional purpose of that for the story.
Gotcha. Go to a place that seems wonderful. When Rose says, "Oh, it's the worst place in the galaxy," right. What you're conjuring up is Tatooine or something, right? Oh, it's going to be some deserted desert thing, right. And then when it's this opulent place, it's like, oh, well, that's not so bad, but it's really bad. Right. That was kind of the...
Yeah. And I'm hoping we get to see Kevin in the next movie.
Yes. I would love to, Justin Theroux, great actor, just sitting there.
Yep, just sitting there.
Waiting to be used.
Baccarat with his English accent.
Yeah. I do hope they utilize him for sure. So Poe, you were talking about story arcs. Maybe this is where Finn's going. All right. Holdo, dead, not Hodor. And obviously Carrie Fisher has died, so General Leia will be gone. So it's probably Poe, you're thinking, would be the new leader. Admiral Akbar's gone.
But the other thing I was
would
thinking
Finn
was...
be the leader?
One thing I was thinking of was, because I think you still want him to run around. But then, I guess if Finn is running around, maybe you don't need him to do that. But, thinking of Carrie Fisher's daughter. She was there a lot.
Oh, okay.
She didn't seem to have an appreciable rank at the time. But...
And she was siding with Poe a lot.
Yes, she was.
Like being secretive.
She was helping the,
But it did seem like they were pushing Poe to be the leader, right?
It might be him.
When Leia's like, you lead him out.
Yeah, because he's the one everybody knows. Yeah, been like, he had the loyalty of people a bunch of them when they were all mutinying.
And they were mutinying.
So...
Yeah, they were mutinying everybody. Are y'all good with that?
Most people still seem to be alive.
Yeah. So that could be Poe becomes the new admiral or
which,
general.
That's important to have that role, even though You know, he'll
Right.
probably be doing a Kirk quite often.
Yeah, he'll go off on the
Yeah,
away
yeah.
missions and not stand in front of the
Yeah,
big
yeah.
screen
Yeah,
and
yeah,
go,
yeah.
move that over there.
Yeah.
So, all right. Do you feel like you've addressed your
Pretty much I've got a
concern?
lot of my things there, I think.
Okay. And so, yeah, so you have a positive spin on things, which is good. And
I
maybe more
enjoyed the
positive than
movie.
producer Steve. Right, I enjoyed the movie as well. And I did
And I enjoyed the last one,
Force Awakens.
Force Awakens.
I enjoyed Force Awakens as well.
You know, I couldn't understand Steve if he even liked the movie because he said he liked it, and then he's like, I liked it a couple notches below the ones that I didn't like. So where is that on a list?
Yeah.
I don't like this, and a couple notches above that is something I like. Do you like it? But I like it more than the thing I didn't like.
Yeah, it was a likable movie, and it did have some issues. But again, some of these issues are yet to be determined too.
Yeah.
Like we had to kind of withhold judgment for 2 years.
Yeah.
To see how some of these storylines get resolved. So. Anyway.
Yeah, and it'd be nice. It'd be very nice, but we're still not going to get it. I mean, who knows?
Knights of Ren fighting Luke on Ahch-To? Yep, you probably will. All right,
I was gonna say, after this third movie, I mean, I think they're about to have movies that aren't in this main, storyline or whatever. Instead of going back to redo characters that have already been in the past, I mean, I don't have anything against that, Han movie. I don't have anything against it, but I mean, a bunch of these characters would be great to have on their own movies. You don't have to have them all in the same movie.
In fact, J.J. Abrams, when asked back in Force Awakens, what would be a standalone movie you'd want to do? His response was, Knights of Ren. He did. Anyway, by the way, the working title for episode 9 is Black Diamond.
Is it?
It is, and I don't know what that means.
Yeah, me either.
Nobody knows what that means.
No,
But
no one knows.
I'm going to go with Lando Calrissian's back. That's what I'm going with. Anyway, okay. Yeah, so there you go. Black Diamond. That's coming in 2 years. Get ready, everybody.
Yeah. Colt 45.
Colt 45.
That's the other alternate title.
That's the alternate title. So yeah, anyway, there are some other folks who also want to weigh in on spoilery things. So we could see a series of Dork Lord responses.
Yeah.
So this is
Dork
Paul's Dork Jedi. Thank you, Paul.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it.
Thank you, Matt.
We'll be back soon to talk other stuff. Subscribe if you want to hear more. Or they're going to be talking Star Wars for a while. But we've also got Black Mirror coming up.
Yeah, we do.
And other fun things as well.
Other fun things.
Enjoy. Bye.